Mrs. Green Apple. Let's continue our track by track listen through to 12, the first full length album by Mrs. Green Apple, with track number 5, which is called Kikorido Kei. Again, I keep saying it's really hard to read Japanese in romanized characters. That sounds like such a weeb thing to say, but it is really true. If you got used to like learning Japanese through hiragana and stuff, then when you see it in romanized characters, you have to like stop putting it back in hiragana in your mind. Kikorido Kei. There we go. Especially when your pronunciation is as bad as mine. Look, the point is that I'm really interested to listen to this, partly because it's continuing an album that is such an interesting point in this track by track listen through experience that we're doing, but also because of the fact this album is certainly taking a bit of an interesting direction. You know, started off interestingly, okay, finding its feet. Public really put things together. Our really kind of continued to bring on that interesting energy, but it ended so suddenly. So with a song ending so suddenly, I want to get straight into finding what Kikorido Kei offers right off the back of it. So here we go. We've just heard the last song, Hour, end suddenly. So Hours ended suddenly. Let's see what happens next. Okay. That is a cool. Straight into the brass band. Oh, that is an interesting change of direction, but I like it. Very marching, offbeat bass with funky guitar, very synthetic brass. It's like a very nice kind of big marching parade song. They're sort of singing in those joyful scales. Yeah, I'm not sure about the choice of keyboard sound. Was that a bit of harpsichord there? What is going on with the keyboard sounds in this song? I love that layering there. Yeah, key change! I love how they signposted that ahead of time. Yeah, this song really felt like it needed that big key change and it paid off beautifully. That's cool. Okay, this is not what I expected. I didn't know what to expect, but I had no idea what to expect, but I'm going to be honest, that's not what I expected. Right, first things first, as an album track, I have to say, coming out of like that high energy rock feeling that Owl left us with, and going straight in with like you get the kind of rocking on, builds up, and then the very first thing you hear is... That's really cool. I like that. I like that. Here's the weird thing. I'll say this because I'm going to talk about the song, but first I have to say that opening sound, the brass, kind of those like I feel like you got tubas and trumpets and stuff in there. Sounds pretty good. For a few seconds it does, but then for the rest of the song, I've got to be honest, the keyboard brass band sounds, I think it's maybe in the high notes, they sound really cheap. I don't know what. Can't really hear it so much there. A little bit. I have mixed feelings on the keyboard sound. I just want to get this out of the way before I talk too much about the song, because I've said in so many Mrs. Green Apple song reviews before that I really like the keyboardist's choice of instrument. Yeah, keyboard, part of it is writing the instrument, part of it is picking the sounds. It's like such an important part of a band because you're the one member who can change their sound to be anything. And so many of the songs, I really like the keyboardist's sound. This one, it sounded distractingly cheap, I've got to be honest. And even then, I don't mind cheap sounding sounds. Sometimes that can work. Sometimes that can have charm. I like things like chiptune and 8-bit music and stuff like that. It's just, in this, it felt really weird. Maybe it's because it started sounding so convincing and then for the rest of the song it sounded so comparatively cheap. And just for anyone who's asking, this was recorded back in 2016, probably 2015 was made. I had much better keyboard sounds than that myself for brass band back in 2006. So yeah, I'm not entirely sold on the fact that it needed to sound like that, but okay, I just thought I have to be honest, the keyboard sound was a bit cheap in my opinion. However, if we take that all to one side and just listen to this for what it was a nice continuation from Owl. You come out of that rocking energy, and then rather than just dumping you in a totally different type of song, I mean, the song does change a lot from what we had in the previous track, but it keeps the energy up. This is not the same sort of pounding rock song, rocking along, but it carries the energy out of Owl and turns it into more of a kind of a big marching band kind of swinging energy, and it still keeps the loudness and the volume, but manages to sort of take all that kinetic energy and turn it into something a little bit more swingy again, a little less just rock, and a little bit more swing. So I think it did a fantastic job of continuing on from Owl, but also changing things up and actually giving us a very different next song. As a song itself, I will say that I think, again, it kind of hits the album track thing on the head exactly how you want it to, in that it's definitely a song that you'd remember, definitely a song that adds something. It's nothing like any of the tracks that have come directly before it. We'll see how we feel about the tracks afterwards, but nothing like the tracks that came directly before it. It really does feel like it's different, interesting, colourful. I will say, though, similarly to with Owl, as much as it is a great album track, I don't think I would necessarily describe it as being one of those ones that's going to stick in your memory and make you come back to it, and that's why it's a good album track. It's great in the context of the album, it works in that context, but I wouldn't come back to this one separately. I will say particularly, for example, the chorus. The chorus was, there's nothing wrong with it, but it has to be said, it was da, 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 da. It was very much just singing a scale and back down. It was a very kind of rudimentary chorus. Nice, but again, so simple to the point that you can't really say, oh, check out this really interesting, memorable chorus I did. Because it's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of the chorus that probably everyone's written just walking up the scale and back down. So this is a song that for me is not really, with exception to the keyboard sound, isn't really doing anything wrong. It's very interesting in that it's got like it's kind of got a kind of nice change from the last song. It's big, it's dramatic, it continues all of the usual interplay of having interesting things happening on the left and right. However, I would say it's not a song I'll come back to in isolation, but definitely a song that I would enjoy in context of the album. I think that I probably found Owl to be a little bit more engaging than this one. But this one was still definitely a strong continuation. So, yeah, I've got to be honest. I'm actually kind of fascinated because I said the whole thing that was really interesting to me is we came into this album off the back of, what was it, Variety and, oh God, I'm really bad at remembering the name of albums. Was it Progress and Variety, the name of the two EPs? Anyway, we came in off the back of those two. And those were both stunningly full of ideas, super creative. And the one thing I said is, obviously, we know, looking at latter day Mrs. Green Apple, just how full of ideas they are on their albums even now. But I was saying, I wonder with their first full-length album whether this was going to be the point where, if at any point in their career, you're going to see maybe a little bit of the strain of having to learn the craft. I was like, this is probably the one. And I'll be honest with you, thus far, I'm seeing really great moments on this, but this is definitely the album where I feel, at the moment, I feel like I can feel maybe a little bit of the creativity. They're working it out. They're working out how they're going to approach things. You know, not every single song is hitting as a, oh my god, that's amazing. Kind of every song I'm hearing, there's some of them where they're like, Public, rock solid. You can release that today and I'd love it. Still an album track, but rock solid. But I think this one, a lot like the first two tracks, is one of the ones where I can see the Mrs. Green Apple quality, but I can also kind of tell that this is from a band who were a little bit fresher, who were still kind of working it out. There's still like little things where I think, nowadays I think you'd do that better. I think if you tried this song again now, I think they'd do it better now. I think they'd probably be a little bit more cautious with not cautious, but I think they'd be a little bit better at forming the keyboard sounds. I think maybe I can imagine the chorus melody would maybe have a little bit more added to it. There were some cool moments, like a little bit harmonizing here, but this is a song that if you put it on its own as an album track, it's great. If you compare it to the band that we know they've become and you hold it up to all those high bars, that's when it starts to become like a little bit more of a, okay, that's all right, but play me the next one kind of song. So definitely a song that in its own right, I really would enjoy this. If this is the first song, I guess a good comparison. If this was the first ever Mrs. Green Apple song I heard, I would definitely be wanting to hear more. I'd be like, ooh, what's this? I got to hear more of this. But they've raised the bar very high to the point where I'd say fun, enjoyable, but I'm looking forward to the next one, Watashi, and seeing where they go with that. Because I think it's not a skipper. It's definitely a song I would enjoy. But I know they got more in the trunk than this. I know they got better than this. This is a good one. They got better. This would, I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys say. I think maybe the two things that stopped this going all the way up for me is maybe the keyboard sound I just felt was too wonky, and the chorus melody. It's good. It's effective, but it just feels a little bit too rudimentary. You can simple things can be simple and great. It just feels a little bit too. Not as imaginative as the stuff they often do in some of their other more simple songs these days. So, anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys say in the comments. Get in the comments and tell me, and until I hopefully see you very soon for the next one of these. For now, ciao, ciao.